Hi, everyone. I want to take a moment to go over just a couple of the homework questions, just to give you a basic understanding of how to go through this and work through the problems. I'm only going to do a couple, but it should be enough to give you an idea of what we're doing. So let's jump over to the homework. I took a screenshot of it, and this is list. The first one is list the first and last name of each guide that lives in Maine, which happens to be ME. We jump over and we look through the book and we find the guide data for the Colonial Adventures Tour, and you'll see that. Whoop, not the wrong thing there. You're going to see that there are rows in here that have ME in it. And with that being said, you're going to want the first name and the last name. So here is one of the examples. Now, it's important to understand that the homework is very specific. And just as if you were working in your profession doing this, we want to make sure we are answering the requirements. So for number one, it wants the first and last name of each guide that lives in Maine. So when you're typing out your answer, don't give me their guide number, because that's not what I asked for. What we asked for was, like I said, the last name and the first name. All right, give me 1 second to erase this board, and then I'll come back and we will look at another problem. Okay, let's look at the next problem that we're going to look at, which is going to be number 5. The reason why I picked number 5 was because this one is a little bit of a trick question. And the reason why it's a trick question is because of this little keyword right here, the or. So it says list the trip ID. So we need to make sure we get the trip ID, the trip name of each trip that is in the state of Vermont, or, and this is the reason why it's a little bit tricky, is the type paddling. So let's go over and take a look at the trips table. So here's let's look at number 1. Is it in the state of Vermont? Well, no, it's not. So with that being said, I can go ahead and say that, I can say that it's not in Vermont. But as we looked before, the key here is the or word. So because it says or, we look to see or paddling. So it only has to be either in Vermont or in paddling, but believe it or not, it can be in both. So both is good. Also, if it's in Vermont or it's paddling, then it would be good. So we can definitely include all of the ones that are in Vermont. Maybe there's some more in here, so forth and so on. Plus, we can also include all the ones that have paddling. And there's more there, but I wanted to show you. So if this had been and, then each record would need to be in Vermont and of type paddling. So once again, because it says or, it can be either or both. All right, on this next one, we're going to take a look at one of the homework problems, and I'm going to kind of give you some thought process to it, but I'm not going to actually solve it for you. So the one I want to take a look at is this number 7, list the trip name of each trip that has Hall Rowan as a guide. So we know that there's obviously the guide table, and we know that there's a trip table. What we also know is that there is a table that brings the data between the guides and the trips together. So as you can see, all guides have a guide number, and all trips have a trip number. So keep that in mind, and what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to find a table. So here we've got our guides table, and we've got our trips table. You're going to find a table of data that brings these two pieces together. And the way they do that is by having a guide ID column and a trip ID column. You're going to need to use this center table to find out those pieces of information and put them together.